Okay, guys. So my name is Peter Rodner. I'm from the Mokdong branch, and today we'll be going over the C2 High. Okay. The C2 High program workshop is for Eagle, Alba, and Albatross Plus. Keep in mind for this program, I think there might have been some confusion, but the C2 program is the one that's going to have the major changes in it. Okay. So I'll do my best to go over. If you are new to the C2 program, then nothing's new. Everything is just, oh, everything is new. But if you are a veteran, there are definitely some changes that you need to be aware of. Okay. So here, this is the workshop agenda. I'll be going over the program objectives, the reading materials, this updated segment guides, class structure, smart textbook, class components, iLearning homework, and lastly, reminders and updates. So if you can tell, there are several updates that you need to be aware of. So first off, just the program objective is pretty much the same. That hasn't changed. First off is to gain background knowledge to analysis of nonfiction books, okay? So this might be a difficulty for some of teachers who maybe enjoy more of a fictional lesson plan. However, personally, I really enjoy the nonfiction books. One of the benefits of it is that it isn't always just like, following a story. So therefore, if a student misses a week or if a student doesn't follow along with all the reading, you can still get them interested in different chapters of the book. In addition, this is the fun class. You are the fun teacher. This is the project class. You're going to be putting them into groups in this one, not in C1, but this is the one where they work together and they're going to fight with each other and they're going to want to work with their best friend and they're going to cry because Sally's not in my group today, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Other than that, we try to develop perspectives, topical knowledge. Okay. Sorry, some more people coming in. Okay, so there is an updated segment guide. It is already available on the FTP, which you can access from your branch or the MERP. That's when you log in and stuff. There's a little FTP button. If you don't know how to do it, I suggest that you talk to your BMTL or someone else there. Okay, but it will go over in more detail different components and objectives. I'll do my best to cover a good general idea of it. However, I'll also be providing you with specific ways that I would modify or change the class and things that I would do. You should talk to your FM and BM and discuss whether or not this is appropriate for your branch, though. Okay, so for the books, each level will have one book that they're going to read. The Eagle will be Chew on This. The Albatross are The Robots Are Coming. And the Albatross Plus is Under a White Sky. Overall, like I said, these are books that you don't have to read straight through. So it is a little bit easier for students, but you do want to make sure that they complete their reading homework. There are extra materials and things that I'll go over to help you and help your students get the reading material done, completed. Okay. So in your FTP or in the file that your management provides with you, you will be given a reading syllabus. You should print this out and give this to the students. In addition to that, I always keep it like posted on my wall or somewhere in my classroom. So that way, if a student isn't sure, if they forget, or even if I get confused, you can always remind them, oh, it's right here on the wall. One thing you want to keep in mind is depending on the edition of your book. It's super annoying, but some of the books have newer editions. So students will buy, for example, Chew on This. They're going to buy the 2017 edition, whereas you will probably have the 2006 edition, especially if you're recycling the copies. Usually, I don't think most branches are giving every teacher a new copy every term. Especially at our branch, you just reuse the same books, okay? So this is a little bit annoying, especially when you're going over like specific components in the class. And you'll see that because in the smart book, just like in B1, it'll say something like, oh, go to page 19, but the students will have to go to page 9. So it's just a little bit of a hassle, but you'll get used to it. And students usually understand it after a while. So like my students will be like, no, teacher, it's page this, it's page this. Oh, no, you have to go to this page, okay? So keep that in mind, depending on the edition of the book that you're reading. Okay, so for the actual class structure, here's a general class structure of the old program. So this is what it used to look like. Now, the biggest changes that you're going to see is first the perspective exploration, which was only about 5 minutes, but it's still a part. Then the biggest change is in your research skills, which was in your second hour. So this is going to be modified, which is then going to move everything else to different areas. And you'll see that in just a second on my next slide. Okay. So the biggest change, if you take a look, is in the first 35 to 40 minutes of the class, you will be doing something called the perspective speech. I'll go into more detail as we go through. In addition, how did they get that time? Well, they took away the research part. So in the develop perspective, now there's just the matrix. There's no more research, which for some people, this was very difficult. But honestly, in my personal opinion, I'm going to be doing a lot of the same things that I did in the research. So I'll go over that and I'll show you some examples of how I would do this, okay? In addition, the concept context page, there is some not really like modification because as teachers, we weren't always able to go over every single reading page, but there is some consideration that you're going to want to think about related to new iLearning homework, okay? In addition to that, nothing's, the projects are still the same, meaning odd weeks are typically writing projects and even weeks are typically presentation projects. Keep in mind, now that we have a 12 lesson program, there will be one supplemental lesson that your FM or BM will take care of, and they'll explain to you, curriculum will give it to you. I don't want to go into that right now because it's quite a headache. But moving on, okay, this is your basically your new class structure. So for me personally, whenever I'm teaching a class, I like to set goals, right? You're going to set a goal for the whole term for your students. You're going to set a goal for every day of class, and I set a goal for every hour. So for this new structure, my goal is to try to get the first stimulus done in the first hour. It's going to be really difficult. Obviously, first day, you're going over a lot of materials, you're doing a lot of stuff, right? So I don't think I'll be able to hit it in the first day, but as students are becoming more familiar with the structure and you become more familiar with the material, that's a general goal I'll be looking for, is try to get the stimulus done within the first hour. Then the second hour, my goal is to get to the first part of the project, just get it like introduced, okay? My real goal would try to get it done maybe 10, 15 minutes before the second break or the third hour, but for the first, I think just getting the project introduced and maybe them in groups would be a good goal in the second hour, okay? Moving on. So I'm now going to go over the components. The first component I'm going to go over is the perspective speech. Unfortunately, the smart textbook, we don't have access to it yet. So I'm just using like screenshots and stuff like that. So just keep that in mind, okay? So the first thing you need to understand is the perspective speech is a separate book. Okay, just like how we have the vocabulary test, we have the we download a separate book and then we send it to the students and then we have to upload the scores. That's going to be the same thing for the actual perspective speech part of the class. So it's going to be kind of annoying. I wish they could put it all together, obviously, but basically you're going to give them the vocab test, you're going to collect the grades, you're going to upload it, then you're going to open up the perspective speech, you're going to collect their responses, and then you're going to upload it, and then you're going to open up the C2 smart textbook. So there's 3 books that you're going to have to open, okay? All right, so because of this, that means you can only access the book, the perspective speech, from the smart tablet, from the teacher tablet, right? There is no smart perspective speech book in the teacher's portal online, so that you can't access it that way. So in order to kind of, I think, counter that, what they did is they've created several slides, okay? They are not meant for the students, but basically it just gives the idea of what the question is, and you'll see what the question is, but basically so that you can start preparing and you can start deciding how you might introduce this part of the class. Here on the bottom, this is just like a picture of the slide, just the first page, and it's pretty basic. And it says here like lessons 1 through 4. So for Eagle, they have lessons 1 through 4. I'm not sure, but I'm assuming they will give us the rest of the lessons also. Okay. Okay. So for the perspective speech, overall, this is the flow of the program or of the objectives, okay? So first off, the perspective speech starts off with an iLearning component. So students will do this at home. It will introduce them to a topic related to the lesson of the day, and the students should start deciding a stance and brainstorming their initial ideas. The second part is where we come in. Students will come in and we will use the smart textbook, which is basically the same prompt that they had for their iLearning, and we're going to guide them on the writing of their speech. Even though it's a speech, right, perspective speech, we're going to be working on the writing part of it. So then they can take that material and they can go home and do their iLearning homework, okay? So here, again, it's to improve their writing of the speech, okay? And how we do that is we're going to have them use their personal experiences, just like with the C2 V1, right? Personal essays that you have to do and the personal perspective essays. The main point of it is to get students to utilize personal experiences, okay, and learn how to use those in order to better support their opinions or ideas. In addition, one reason this was also brought into the program is the fact that I guess many students were just taking the prompt and putting it into ChatGPT as well as other types of AI format, and then they were just pasting them in. And obviously, the people who are correcting the essays and the speech were like, "Wait a second, this is not written by like an Eagle or Birdie or Bridge student." Okay, so this is the purpose and the flow of the overall perspective speech. Okay. So here is basically what students will see for the upper levels. There are modifications and changes for the lower levels, so just keep that in mind. But here it's kind of like a little news story, like, hello, welcome back to Security Spotlight. They'll listen to it and they'll take some notes. From there, they're going to start making their perspective of, start taking their own choice on what they think about the topic. Do they agree or do they disagree? And they'll be taking some notes. Again, this is prior to coming to class, okay? Then when they come to class, okay, this is C-learning. This is basically, or what I believe the smart textbook is going to look like for our classes. Here, they can play the MP3s, and you'll have agree or disagree for the students, okay? And then basically what you're going to do is you're going to guide them to help write a good opening, body, and conclusion, okay? Here, again, there are a few things that we want to keep in mind as teachers for the objectives, okay? Number one, we want to assist through the process of writing a speech, okay? So this includes an opening, body, and conclusion. So if you look on the side, right, you will want to make sure that also you upload the student's writing. So they'll type it in the class, and then you'll have to upload it when you close the smart book, just like when you do the vocabulary test. The purpose is so that they can then access it later when they go home to iLearning. So basically their iLearning will be done for this section. There might be some modifications and maybe we won't get through all of it, especially in the beginning, but as we get better and better, it should be okay. Okay, so here, upper levels, and it varies and you'll learn in the low mid level of C2, but upper levels should have an opening, a full opening, 2 reasons, and a closing, okay? It gets modified, obviously, for lower levels. They don't expect them to do as much. Here, in addition to just basically writing a speech, you do also want to work on presentation skills. That means like engaging the audience, eye contact, gestures, pace, clear, confident, firm voice, and have them practice, 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 practice. All right. So this is something that you want to keep in mind in the class, and I'll show you some ways that I might modify or change it as we go. Okay. One thing also just to keep in mind is when students are doing this in class, they will need to move their tablet vertical. Okay. The reason is so that they can then see the things on the top and then they can type on the bottom. Okay. Here, we do want them writing in full sentences. So it is important that you go around and you're checking and you're proctoring that they're not just writing single words, because we want to help them improve their overall speech. Okay. Any questions on this?
Okay. I do have a quick question.
Yep.
So you mentioned that they should be writing this in full sentences, but is the part that they do in class for C-learning graded at all, or is it just their notes for iLearning?
So you will use this for actually a writing C-learning grade. Yes, there will be an extra grading rubrics inside where you'll have to add that. That's also in the segment guide, okay?
Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
I also have another question, actually, Peter.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, so for their presentation, for their C-learning, are they going to have a separate time to present that is not the project?
So yeah. Well, no. So the thing is, they don't actually provide us with presentation time. Okay. It doesn't actually say it's presentation time. It's all about how to write your speech. Okay. That's why we want them to have full sentences, right? But we also want to give them other tips, which I agree about. So this is going to lead me to my second slide right here. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So personally, when I did the research, right, if you done C2 before, there was always a research in either the low, mids, levels, and stuff like that. So what I would do is I would have students actually practice their presentation skills. Because remember, it's a C2 class, it's a project class. The presentations are the fun part. I want them up in front of the class feeling comfortable, right? Their body language, their pace. So what I used to do is I used to use the research part as a mini presentation. I think maybe it'll be difficult in the beginning, but as time progresses, you can maybe have them improve. Here, it was also like group projects. So I used to put them together in pairs, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then they would practice their presentation with each other. They would make one presentation, but then I would let them stand up. And for this, I don't think we'll have enough time for them to make a slide, but there is an app that I used to use, and it was really easy to make a slide. It basically set everything up for you. It had animations, it had everything. But here's just a quick clip of what I would do maybe in this perspective speech if I have enough time and depending on the size of my class. They're going to click.
About
Oh.
the uses of drones in our community. First, drones can deliver pizzas. This can help pizza companies to deliver faster to the customers. But no pizza company is using this idea yet. Second, drones can deliver beers. They attach a parachute to the beer. Then the drone will find the house. Finally, drones can chase tornadoes. It can be dangerous for people and are too fast for people. Still, drones are fast, and if they attach camera, they take picture in front of tornadoes. In conclusion, our team thinks that drone can be very helpful to community, and it doesn't always have to be debate about drones in space. The first reason is because
Okay, so here, it was really basic if you could tell, and the girl did say they did it in teams. So usually I would have one member of the team. I would have them decide which member, and then the next week they would switch up and stuff like that. So if I had a class of 12, I'd only have 6 presentations. They were short. What I worked on though was, if you noticed, one was memorization, right? And their pace of their voice and eye contact. So one thing I would do, and it was kind of fun, and you don't have to have the PowerPoint, but I'd have them like, you can't look at the tab whenever you speak. And if they do, I go, make a big deal of it. I also did things where like, I would put numbers on the back of my wall, on the back of my wall. And I would say, you have to look at a certain number, and I'd call out a number, like look at number 1, and they'd have to look, hello, everybody, number 3, hello, but right. Stuff like that, just to kind of mess with them and make it a fun game. So here, I think this would be a great way to maybe implement it in a class, depending on your time and depending on the number of students. Okay, does that make sense? Any questions on that? Okay, but as far as the program guide, it does not provide us with any specific time to present these. But I do think you can use this to show and help them make better presentations for our final project. Okay. All right, so this is not what it will look like. This is actually something that students already do, okay? So I forget what it's called exactly, but it's also like a perspective speech, blah, 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 blah. Here, students will present when they go home. This is when they go home, okay? They're in their home and they look at the camera on their computer, just like we are here, and their job is to present, make eye contact, use body language, and all these other things, okay? So here, this is probably going to be similar. I don't think they're going to remake this whole thing. They're probably just going to copy and paste it over. But here, this is something that you can maybe think of as far as other like presentation skills and things that you'll be looking at, okay?
drawing more attention to its benefits over VR. First, AR does not cut you out from the world like VR does. In fact, AR serves a better social purpose because it is shared experience. The game was praised for a social gaming experience. Another benefit of AR over VR is the accessibility for the average consumer. With VR brand namings charging upwards of $800 for these headsets. It can be as simple as downloading an app onto your smartphone. Finally, since it
Okay, so I love that. First, okay, body language, gestures, right? Get those extra points.
Today, illegal downloading is very common on the web. I think that illegal downloading has its good points and its bad points. First, the copyrights are disturbed. Copyrights on the internet should receive the same protection as other intellectual property rights. The second reason of illegal downloading is that openness and sharing are fundamental features of the internet. So illegal downloading is no
Those some big words from a little girl there, but here, this is just giving you an idea of what the students will have to do when they go home, okay? So keep that in mind. And again, keep in mind, like, I don't know what the exact grading rubrics is because I haven't seen it yet. This is just from another component that students do in their classes, and I assume it will be somewhat similar. Obviously, you guys know presentation skills, so something you can think about. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Peter, I have a quick question.
Yep.
So when it comes to uploading the grades for their presentation on the tablet, like, do we have to individually upload them, or is it going to be the same as when they do their tab tests?
So what's going to get uploaded is everything that they typed. That when you
Okay.
close the book, right, all that information should get uploaded so that they can access it when they go home for iLearning, okay? That's a good point. Also, if you have a student who isn't doing iLearning, you should have them write it down in paper or in their notebook, okay? But okay, as far as a grade, there will be an extra C-learning grade when you input your grades like every 3 weeks that you will input for the writing section of the perspective.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And that you'll have to do individually. You know how you click it all down and stuff like that.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thanks.
So now things just get back to normal. If you've done C2 before, it's very similar. Here we have basically 3 parts or 3 types. They're called the stimulus, concept, context, and the project. Again, remember that the odd weeks are writing projects and the even weeks are usually presentation projects, okay? So just to give you an idea, what it looks like is pretty much this. A stimulus section is just basically like a topic connect. It's the introduction and the end, okay, of the concept context. So we're going to introduce them to the day's topic or the lesson's topic, and we want to start getting some ideas. What do they think? What is their first perspective of this idea, right? So here, for example, what do they think about robots? Do you think robots are beneficial? Do you think robots are harmful? Or fast food? Is it good? Is it bad? So you get them started on that. Then you'll go through 3 or 4 pages of concept context. That's the green pages. This is run very similar to like a V1 where they have specific page numbers and they'll fill in some blanks. And then really what you want to do is you want to have a discussion about it, okay? But they need to understand the concepts in the book to have a discussion. What you're trying to do is you're trying to give them, right, a better perspective of whatever the topic is with some facts and statistics and some information from the novel or the books that we're reading. You will then go back to the stimulus section, okay, after the concept context so that they can reevaluate their opinions. Either 1, they might switch their opinion, or 2, they might have better reasons or support for their opinion, okay? Then the last part is the personal project, and this is the fun part. So I'm going to show you what it looks like in the Smart Textbook, okay? So here's C2 Eagle, okay? So it starts off now with the stimulus section. The perspective exploration has been removed, okay? So if you guys knew what that was, that is gone. So here, I'm just asking, what do you usually order at a restaurant? It's just introducing the topic about fast food, right? Hamburger, fried chicken, French fries. Then this is just like the beginning of the book, right? Just the cover or the back of it usually. And then there's a discussion, okay? Here, they'll give you a little bit about the research, but it isn't like a research project, okay? So that's very similar to like V1, okay? Here, stimulus, and then you'll have several pages of concept context, 3 or 4 pages of concept context. Like I said, it's very similar to a V1, right? This one is this is like the introduction, but here, like page 4, how was the first hamburger invented, right? True, false questions. I do like that they aren't so many fill in the blanks though. I mean, I do really love the fill in the blank ones, but at least they're asking them like comprehension questions, right? And facts and stuff like that. Throughout this, you're going to be learning about obviously fast food, and then you want to ask them discussion questions. They do provide you with discussion questions, but you also want to create your own. You can add media card, you can add YouTube videos to help them understand the concepts better. Okay, White Castle. I love White Castle. Who loves White Castle? Yeah, it's an East Coast thing.
Never tried it. I'm not from Chicago.
Oh, okay, it's an East Coast thing. All right.
I
So
tried it
White
in
Castle.
Jersey.
Yep, Jersey. Okay. And then if you see here, we go back to the stimulus section again. Okay. So that's really the only thing. And it's not 100%, but it's really short. Okay. But it's kind of like, hey, you just learned about all this fast food. You learned about some of the benefits. You learned about some of the harmful. And now let's look back and see if we can think about some other ideas. That's really all it is. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy this class. And basically, one thing you want to keep in mind as a concept context is which ideas you want to focus on the most, because it's a nonfiction book. For example, you might talk about Subway, you might talk about White House, you might talk about McDonald's, and each one of them will have different concepts or ideas that they want to support or explain about whatever the lesson is. So it's important that you read over the novel and that you have an idea of a direction you want to take the class in for that lesson. In addition, something I've noticed, for example, like when the robots are coming, it's just kind of like sad because it's like the robots just do everything. It's like, there's no like, oh, wow, maybe humans will win. No, robots win. Robots are better. We're all like in big trouble, apocalypse. So you may want to like read ahead and just think about how the whole term will go and what you want to think about there. Okay. So here there is, like I said, there used to be like more research and stuff like that here. It's just a perspective matrix. It's just like 5 minutes based on what you've learned about selling point of fast food. Where would you place the restaurants on the matrix? Here you can put up some media cards of Korean restaurants or fast food and stuff like that. You could put CU, slow food, like whatever you want, and they could just put it in wherever they like. It shouldn't take that much time. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. So now we move to the project. This is the fun part.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry, will we be getting this recording?
I believe so. I think I pressed it this time.
Okay, thank you.
I remember. Okay, so project. Now, this is the fun part. Like I said, if I'm lucky and I got a great class in Eagle, Alba, and definitely maybe Albatross Plus, you're like, 20 minutes until your next break, right? And you're going to introduce this, you're going to put them in groups, and you're going to get them going, and they're going to fail horribly the first week, and then you're going to do better next week, okay? But the personal project, or the project, sorry, is broken down into two parts. There's a personal project part and a collaborative project part. The way it's broken down is the idea that first you should think of your own ideas, okay? So you don't have to necessarily just have them do it alone. You could just think about it as a class. Let's all do it together as a class, right? Think about these ideas, and then you can write them on the board, you can write them on the tablet, and that makes it a lot easier, I find, for the students once they get into groups. And that's the collaborative part. This is like once you've made those groups of 4 or 3 students, right? They should be taking those ideas and then applying it to whatever the output or whatever the project is for that day. Here, like I said, usually I'll take this part and I'll usually do it as a class, okay? I don't think there's any harm in putting them into groups right away and having them work together and then sharing those ideas as a team or as a class, because then everyone has the idea. And if a team isn't, really that creative, or they're having struggling ideas, you have a ton of ideas on the board that you could just say, hey, take a look here, right? Some people are going to make a chicken fast food. Some people are going to make a cheeseburger fast food or Korean fast food. Which one would you like to make? And they can just choose one that way. Okay. So for the project also, one thing you want to keep in mind is they will break it down into 3 parts. I'll be honest, sometimes, especially in the beginning of the term, the 3 parts will be difficult, okay? So what they're saying here is we're going to make a menu, we're going to have like an origin story of it, and we're going to make a budget of it, okay? Personally, I would say, okay, this is going to be a little bit difficult for them to do every single part, and also with the guide that they give you. So something I might either lessen up on or make a little bit easier. There's no budget. You just have to make sure you give me prices for everything, right? I want to know how much it's going to cost to get, a large fry and, a cheeseburger set meal, stuff like that, right? So just keep that in mind. Here, you may also add stuff like a character or a mascot and stuff like that to make it a little bit more fun, right? For this project. Here, obviously, the menu is pretty important, stuff like that. So keep that in mind, what you're doing for that. They will go through several parts, okay? And there's a good amount of space for them to do it. There will also be space, okay? So they're just making like a lunch menu, okay? And then here's the origin. Where will you get the food from? And Koreans are big on that. If you've ever gone to Korean restaurants, they always tell you where the pork is from, where the everything is from, and then budget, okay? So again, there are like 3 sections, and typically there will always be 3 sections, but I will be honest, I either combine them, lessen them, or modify them in some way, okay? All right. Then here comes the collaborative part, okay? We'll come up with agreements for your school cafeteria menu. So that was all the personal stuff. So basically it's just ideas thinking, oh, I want this for lunch. I want this for lunch. I want this for lunch. And you just get all their ideas. What's your favorite lunch? Oh, my lunch, pasta. I like spaghetti. Oh, what's your favorite? Oh, I like fish. Oh, I like when we have kimchi jjigae, or I like this, okay? And then they get into groups and then they decide, right? So you might have a group of 3 and they might say, oh yeah, we all like chicken. So we're all gonna have chicken twice a week, Mondays and Fridays, okay? Friday, bulgon day, okay? And then so forth, okay? All right. And then they go through. So this is a lot of fun, right? This is the fun project. You have them work together. And I'm going to go over just some ways to think about the project and ways that you can work on it. Give me 1 second, my thing. Okay. So like I said, there is writing and there are presentation projects, okay? Majority of teachers, I think they have no problem with the presentation ones. They love those ones, and so do the students. But it is important that they also get practice in writing. So I think there's several ways you can do it. Obviously, you can have them actually write out scripts. You can have them write out other stories and stuff like that. So here are just 2 examples of things that I implement in my classroom. One great one is you have a newspaper. They have to create a newspaper. They'll just introduce their newspaper. I will say, like, for my students, 100% of the time, I'm always on the cover of the page, and I've done something horrible, or I'm in some scandal, or I've, like gotten fired or something like that. But here they can write out full sentences and stuff like that. Here, another one is like a personal essay, since it's something that you're going to have to practice and you're going to be tested on. You can have stories of different types. They can be fantasy stories. They can be real stories. I don't know, maybe cheeseburgers come to life and they take over the world. In addition, I've done other things like obituaries, depending on what the lesson is. You can have all these different type of things. Utopia, dystopia for the upper levels, if you really understand those, and they can understand those, that'd be great for like the robots and stuff like that. Okay, so these are just some of the writing projects you can think about. In addition, it's not always easy, but if you're struggling with some of the projects or presentations, some things that you can also do is create a set template, right? So if you look here, this is just a basic template. You got to think, typically you're going to have 3 or 4 students per group. So therefore, having, right, 3 or 4 different slides will make it a lot easier. Each person can take a slide, they discuss what the ideas are. Here, you can also start with basically guiding questions. I know some teachers, they just make 1 slide and like let them go and like make whatever style they want. For the lower levels, they may have some difficulty actually putting everything together. So it's a little bit nicer if everything is set up for them already. Then usually what I'll do is I'll say, okay, I want to know who is doing which slide. Okay, so here, oh, who's doing the basic information? Oh, Peter will be doing the basic information. Okay, who's doing big data? Oh, Norman's doing big data. Okay, and then I can go in and I can check out and I can talk with them and see what they're doing, how they're working and stuff like that. This could be a mixture of both a writing and presentation type. Okay. What is this? Oh, okay. You can make modifications. You can have a debate. You can have an argument, depending on what the levels are. Sometimes I even have like a town hall meeting, okay? So here, town hall meetings, you put them in characters, you put them in roles, you put them in acting, right? So in a town hall meeting, say it's about, oh, we want to replace Hagwon teachers with robots. Let's think, who would be at that town meeting? What would teachers think? Are teachers going to be happy or unhappy? They're going to be unhappy. What about parents? What would they think? Oh, they might be on the fence. What are the benefits? What are the strengths? What would the school think? The school might be very happy about it. Robots are going to be cheaper. Robots, they get to fire all the Hagwon teachers. It's going to be great. They don't have to worry about us, right? So you can have them do different roles, especially for larger classes if you want to have a debate and you don't have even numbers. So then it just becomes more like team discussions, like one team represents this side, one team represents this side. Okay. You can have them if you have the materials. I know at our branch, we don't really have like a ton of materials, but I've seen teachers do great things with just paper, some tape, and some of those cardboard boxes from where the paper comes in, okay? You're gonna have them make three-dimensional objects and ideas, and I think that's a lot of fun, whether or not it's building some background or some other than just draw a picture all the time. I love the pictures, but sometimes it's really great if you can do something three-dimensional. One way we do that is, I know for me personally, for the V1 project, I always have my students do a board game. I think it's a lot of fun to turn the book into a board game. I don't know if you guys know, but like Hello Universe, I was doing this term. So a couple of my students escape the well, and it's a really simple thing. They just have to they made the board look like a giant well, and they have to roll dice and stuff like that and get out of the well. But that's another way you can do it. Other ways, yes, you can do art projects, but I would say if they're doing some type of art project and you're having them draw pictures, make sure there's some writing involved with it. Don't just have them say, hey, just draw a picture of, your future robot, okay? Make sure you give them extra things. I would like you to describe the robot. What are the benefits? What are its strengths? What can it do? Blah, 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 right? Name it and stuff like that. And that's just something you should keep in mind. Okay? Any questions? All right. So those are just some ideas and different ways you can implement the project, some things to think about. Obviously, it's all about your planning and proctoring and following up with your students. Just sitting in the classroom and just saying, hey guys, ready, set, go. You're really not going to be able to produce really great projects. And students also won't be really happy about it. There are going to be a lot of arguments and stuff like that. So it's important as teachers, you sit down with each team, and I always do, and then, just discuss like you're part of the team. Like, okay, guys, what are we doing? Okay, how are we doing that? Okay, who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? Great, great, great. And then move on, okay? Another thing is presentation feedback. I know a lot of the teachers, they do give they give their own feedback, but they don't have students give peer-to-peer feedback. So I think it's really important that you get students involved in that. And honestly, it does build the class closer, I have found personally. So usually what I'll do is I'll write a few things, depending on the level, right? I'll write a few things on the board that they can look out for, okay? First thing I always ask them is simple factual questions, right? Depending on what the project was, right? So let's say the project was create like an act of robots taking over the world, right? I'll ask them, oh, what was Maddie's role? What was she? Was she a robot or was she a human? Oh, Maddie was a robot. Was she a good robot or she was a horrible robot? Why would, right? So that way I know that they're paying attention and they know that it's coming. Then I'll work on more of their opinions and feedback, right? So were they loud and clear? Yes, Maddie was loud and clear. Good. Was just Maddie? Yeah, Maddie was the loudest. Okay, thank you, right? I also have them use specific phrases and vocabulary. I always give them a certain number of vocabulary to use on the following, on that lesson. So I always say you have to use 5 vocabulary per team. I always make it an odd number so they have to decide who's going to do the extra one or who's going to take on that responsibility. So there's a team of 4. I never say just 4 because everyone just, I'll do one. And then well, you didn't do one, right? So I always make it like an odd number just so that they have to fight about it. Then presentation, right? And this is also where you can pull in the presentation for the perspective speech. Okay, but other things I'll look for, did everyone have an equal part? Did everyone, look like they were participating? Could you follow along? Because sometimes I'm like, I have no clue what happened there, right? There was an explosion, the robot died, and I'm just lost, guys, right? And they'll say, no. Okay, other things are visuals or PowerPoints, right? So some teams, I mean, honestly, they spend a lot of time on making just a microphone or just like one little thing, and it's pretty good. I'm like, it's pretty good. I should give you some credit for that, but your presentation wasn't, so keep that in mind. Then anything they enjoyed and anything you would add or change, I usually always do those ones. And then the last one I always do is I ask them who was the best presenter. And you're not going to get the greatest answers, but I always have them say, oh, I think, and they're like, I don't want to choose one. They all did good. And I won't let them do that. I want to know one presenter that you thought did a good job. And they'll have to say that one person, and then I make the other person say thank you, and I thank you, thank you. And it actually makes the person who presented feel really good about what they did, and it gets other students wanting to get that praise also from their peers, not from me. And I find it works very effectively. And I always ask them, for example, the first time a boy will pick a boy, and I'm like, why? Just because he's a boy? And then no, no, no. And then he has to come up with a reason. Otherwise, he looks like, you know, horrible person, right? So this is for the feedback, okay? You can obviously modify this here. If you don't know, in the back of the book, they provide you with this for the students. I don't know. I don't even, the breadth of the perspective, the depth of the person. That my kids don't know that one, okay? The imagery, okay? So make it fun, or have them make your own sheet if you want even, okay? All right. So that will be the end of the presentation, and woohoo, lots of fun, okay? Any questions? Okay, so homework, iLearning. And first off, the perspective exploration used to be in the SMART textbook. This is no longer in the SMART textbook, which I was very upset about, but I was happy to hear that it's still in the student's workbook, okay? They have modified these, right? They've changed these a little. So personally, okay, for the Mokdong branch, we will assign this as homework. There are multiple choice questions that students will read and they will answer. The great thing is that these questions are pretty much the same questions they're going to see in the concept context pages. So that way, as long as they have their workbook, you can tell them, open up, let's fill in those blanks, and your concept context page should be like, boom, should be done in like 5, you have 3 minutes to put in your answers, boom, 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 right? Stuff like that. And it also helps them understand, obviously, the reading, and it'll hopefully get them to do the reading. So in each lesson, right, there will be, I think it's actually less now because they modified. I think there's like 5 questions. This is like an older one. It's not like a lot of work, okay? But it does tell them what page numbers to read. It does tell them even what lines to look at for the answers. So it's not like the worst thing in the world for them because they're reading anyways, okay? You can teach them to become active readers and stuff like that also. But here, this is only now in the student's workbook, okay? The new homework is kind of similar. This is called Reading Navigator. Reading Navigator is pretty much a really quick exercise. As far as I know, and as far as I've been given, this is like this is it. So before they come to class, right, all they have to do is click these little boxes and put them in the right blanks. And then if they get it wrong, I think it just tells them which one. Like, so they just click and drag, click and drag. I don't think this is going to get them to understand, because once they click and drag it and get it right, they have to read it and understand it. But I don't think they're going to do that. But basically, it is, for example, it seems like this is more about the topic and then like different parts of the lesson, okay? And then they give them like kind of a discussion type question or something like that, okay? It should be really quick. It doesn't seem as hard. And basically, this is what their solution is to kind of like students who don't read. At least they'll come in with some type of prior knowledge and information. Okay, so make sure, okay, that you remind students to complete their homework. That is important, especially iLearning homework, even though we're not directly connected to it. And I know there's always like that disconnect, but you still want to make sure students are correcting it, doing it completely. If you don't know, on your MERP, you can check completion rates, right? At Mokdong, we should be checking out, right, who's doing the collocation, who's doing that and stuff like that, okay? That is important to keep in mind, okay? All right. So once again, for the C-learning, right, homework assignments and stuff, assigned reading, workbook vocabulary, and then for the new stuff like perspective speech, obviously their iLearning and stuff like that, they're going to have to do, but don't forget perspective exploration for the Mokdong branch. iLearning, collocation vocabulary, reading navigator, perspective speech, okay? Also keep in mind that the production chunk, I've confirmed it, is removed. So there's no more chunks for them. Okay, also C-learning grades will change from weeks 3, 9, and 11. Okay, and then the last thing is I know there were some questions about the smart tablets. Yes, the smart tablet functions will have some changes. No, we have not been given any type of manual or form, but I'm pretty sure we all have smartphones and we can figure it out. We seem like a smart bunch of kids here. Okay, so we don't know. The workshops here are really for the program focus, not on the technology focus. So just keep that in mind. I know some people asked that question to Jock in his C1 program, but the truth is we don't have anything yet. Okay. All right. Any questions?
I do actually.
Go ahead.
So for perspective exploration, it's a C-learning homework. Are they doing the assignment for the next lesson or the lesson of that we learned?
No, we should do for Mokdong, we should do the next lesson, just like we do
Okay.
in V1. So that way, when they're doing their reading homework, they're answering these questions at the same time.
So would it be okay in the first day if I tell, like, if we do the homework just a little bit together for lesson 1 to show them, oh, this is how it's done, and then yada, yada, yada?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Honestly, like it'll be the same. You'll notice actually, you'll probably notice, and you can maybe show them that how, hey, this is the perspective of exploration is very much what we're doing in the concept context pages. And if better you do that, the quicker we get to the project, right?
Okay.
The
Sounds
kids
good,
love
thank you.
project. Okay. Any other questions? All right, I did a fantastic job, I guess. Thank you very much. So please let me know. Here's a survey where you get to rate me, love me, hate me. Other than that, I know everyone, we have another workshop that we got to attend for many of us for the C2 low mid. However, I'll stick around for a little bit if you have any questions.
Thank you for your time.
No problem.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Peter.
Hey,
Thanks,
Peter.
Peter.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Peter.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Thanks.
Hey, Peter, can I talk to you one-on-one, please, if possible?
One-on-one. Oh no, did I do something wrong?
No, no, no.
Can we, how about, can you private message me and why don't we talk through chat if there's something, I feel like, is it gonna like, because I want like any questions for the group, but if you want to message me privately, I'm totally fine. Do you want my email?
Yes, please.
All right, hold on. Let me find you. Okay, did you get that? Good.
Yep, got it. Thanks.
All right, just email me and I'll answer because I know all of us got to go to another workshop soon.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. All right, take care.
Any questions?
No, thank you. Goodbye.
Okay, I'm gonna get out of here too. All right, guys, I gotta get more coffee. I'll see you guys later. I'll see you in the next one.